Good evening. My name is Susan Ratcliffe, and I'm on the steering committee of the 2Rivers Festival. And it's my pleasure to welcome you to this event, this very special evening that is almost the conclusion of our festival, that has celebrated and appreciated the speed in the Aramasa River over the past 2 months. 2 months, we can't believe it. So we'd like to thank all of the event sponsors. You've seen them on the slides on your screen. And our special event sponsor, the Guelph Outdoor School, who generously made this festival possible. All of them have shared their passion for the rivers throughout their various events. 2 months ago almost, we had our printed program ready. We had 40 events ready to go along the banks of the river. And then suddenly, everything was shut down. So our community organizations, their volunteers, have done an amazing job of converting all of the festival events to an online format. And we just can't thank them enough for their flexibility and for the amazing different variety of things that they have presented to us. So we'd like to ask you to support our advertisers, our event sponsor. There's one more event tomorrow, so please RSVP to it and take a birding tour of the Yorklands Green Hub. So all of our events were online. This whole festival is a project of the Wellington Water Watchers, and we all hope that if we fall in love with our rivers, that we'll want to further protect them. And our evening tonight is of one of those stars of protection of the 2Rivers. So I turn it over to Arlene to take over from me.
Okay, thank you, Susan. And I just wanted to extend my warm welcome to all of you who are joining us tonight. And thanks for taking time out of your lives to join for what I think is a really, really important event. And we had originally planned this event to happen back in World Water Day, which is March 22nd. And it was one of the very first events that we had to cancel as a result of like the COVID regulations. And that event was going to take place at Silence, which is a venue in Guelph that is run and organized in huge part by a lovely community member named Gary Diggins. And as you were being welcomed in from the waiting room, as we call it in this online world, it was a soundscape that Gary had created, and there was going to be this whole beautiful musical component to the event that was happening way back in March. And of course, everything's had to be restructured, and my hat is off to everyone along the way who has just really taken on being creative in the midst of this and pulling together to continue the offerings in the way that we had imagined. So thanks to Gary for that very, very beautiful soundscape as we entered in. And that soundscape was called Spirit of Water. One thing that I've been at home for however, March, April, May, June, 4 months now. And I hadn't gone out once. So I got dressed up tonight. I'm wearing like fancy clothes and earrings and a necklace. And my daughters did my makeup and some hair. And it feels like a night out to me here at home. And I'm happy to have this night out for this very, very important event. So we're going to have a lot of folks were very interested in joining us for this, and it's no doubt because Dr. Hugh Whitley has had a tremendous impact on this community, and I know that for many that will be joining tonight, there are many, many more who couldn't join tonight, but who will be watching this recording, and that there will be a life even just beyond this, including the mini documentary film that we have created and commissioned in honor of Dr. Hugh Whitley that we're going to be screening tonight as a first ever, and then we're going to send that film on a circuit through film festivals around, just to really honor the work of this man. And I know he will say, And it is our intention to inspire another generation of folks who are going to be so willing and committed to the protection and restoration of our beautiful rivers. So I'm going to make a few housekeeping rules just to make this event go really smoothly. We're going to keep everybody muted just because we're going to be screening a film and having different song offerings, and it'll just work better on this platform if you remain muted. And it is my suggestion that you also, to increase and maximize the bandwidth for your viewing enjoyment, that you also leave your video off. And unless you're trying to get our attention. If you're trying to get our attention, there's two ways to get our attention. You can put your video on and like wave, and we'll do our best to see you because there's a lot on. Another way to get our attention is to pop a message in the chat. And for those who don't know, I'm going to just review quickly. On your Zoom screen, on the very bottom, if you take your cursor to the very bottom left of your screen, there's a mute button and there's a stop video button. And those are the ways that you can both mute and unmute yourself and unshare your video. And if you were to scroll your cursor over, there's another box called chat. And if you click on that, you're going to be able to have a moment to write and type some words into the chat message, and we'll be able to see if you need some support. One other thing that I wanted to mention there too, all of this is going to be recorded. So if you are not interested in being recorded, please don't turn your video on and don't include something in the chat. But one of our big intentions of this evening, given we can't be, originally we had imagined this as a live event where folks are coming together to honor the incredible achievements of Dr. Hugh Whitley, and where we would have a moment to mingle and be able to chat with him. And we can't do that in this online event. So the invitation is there for anyone at any point during this event to go into that chat box and type a message for Hugh. And we're going to be collecting all of those up, and all of those will go to Hugh at the close of this event, or in the next few days when we are able to also deliver his award to him. The other thing that I wanted to make a note of is, because this is a night out in my life, in my 4 months of not going out anywhere, I have decided to pour myself a glass of wine. And whether it's wine or beer or our beautiful, beautiful local groundwater, I invite you to find yourself with a vessel of some sort with our beautiful local groundwater in whatever format is pleasing to you. And at some point later on in this evening, when we are actually going to do the presentation to Hugh, to join me in a toast. Okay, so that's just an invite for a little later on. A bit of an agenda for the evening. We're going to have a bit of talking pieces and some song pieces, and then we're going to screen the film that was created in honor of Hugh. It's a almost 30-minute film. And then we're going to hear some words from some folks who really wanted to be present to honor Hugh. And then we're going to hear from Hugh himself, and we're going to virtually present him with this award. And then we're going to wrap it up. I estimate that will take us to just before 9. So join us for as long as you can. If you need to duck out, that's totally fine. Just quietly leave the meeting, which is another option at the bottom of your scroll bar. And if you have RSVP'd, which you have because you're here, you will get a recording of the event. All right, so without further ado, I'd like to introduce a song that we're going to play right now, a very other well-known local water activist named James Gordon, who was also a founder of Water Watchers and has known Hugh since he was a child. Really wanted to be present in this event, but he is enjoying some time up in his houseboat up in the Severn Canal ways. And instead, we're going to play a song that he has created, which I think, James Gordon is a prolific songwriter, and there are so many songs that he has created that would be suitable for this evening. The one we are going to share tonight is the song about how you can't put a river in a box. And so I'm going to thank Megan to cue that one up, and we're just going to enjoy the song in this video.
I'm a real river guy, and in fact, Bruce has one of my CDs I forgot to bring on tonight. I have a whole CD of river songs. But we have a habit, I hear it's done a little bit in your part of the world, but we have a habit in Ontario of taking nice, beautiful rivers and sort of boxing them in so that they, you wouldn't want them to flow anywhere that's, onto any real estate you didn't want it to interrupt or anything, so it's not very nice. And so this song is called You Can't Put a River in a Box. And there's a part for you feel like singing along? Okay. Didn't get a really resounding. Here first. Oh, yeah, okay. Boy, okay. They're cautious. They're cautious folks here. Tough crowd. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, thanks James virtually for that beautiful song that's so fitting for the work of any of us who are doing work to advocate for the rivers here. You cannot put it in a box. It's a flowing life force of its own, and I know, and I've been lucky enough to be able to call in on Hugh's both like technical expertise and also just, I might call it philosophical expertise on, really the importance and the values of our local rivers, our local groundwaters, and our valley lands, the parts that keep the integrity of the ecosystem intact. And I wanted to speak just a few moments to the reason why this event is happening tonight, and the reason and the birthing from which this award that we have created to honor Hugh has come about. Because way back in the origins of Wellington Water Watchers, which is a mere short 13 years ago now, Hugh was really essential and fundamental as our go-to hydrologist. And sometimes the way things work in the world of advocacy is that the worlds get divided a bit into, in some ways, there's like the science and the technical components, and then there's the values-based components that we try to bring together as in our advocacy work. And Hugh, at this outset, was our go-to hydrologist for the science and the technology pieces, to help bring us a deeper and greater understanding of the issues that we felt were important to bring forward, but we needed the science and data to back it up. And in Hugh, we found not only someone who's got the expertise and the background in the science, who was willing to go above and beyond, and as a volunteer, way out of his way to strongly take a stand for our groundwater locally. Not only was he willing to on a scientific level, but I got to know him over the years and found in him like a kindred spirit who also felt a very deep connection and passion for these waters and for the roles that they play, that is not always what one finds in somebody with a technical background. And so I know he's been an immense and invaluable go-to source for us in our work over the years. But I also feel like personally, I've been deeply inspired by speaking with you. And he's sort of my touchstone when I go to refer. Like, there was an occasion, and this is how this award came about. There was an occasion this past year when I was trying to, in my mind, sort out what really are the major threats to groundwater in this region. And sort of more broadly, what are the major threats to groundwater? And I had set out my ideas, and we set a meeting, and I gathered with Hugh, and I kind of like one by one asked him about him. And in the end, what I heard from Hugh, which is so inspiring to me, is that fundamentally the source of the problem when it comes to the way that we can so easily extract water as a resource, or commodify it, or put it in a box as the river would be, or to sort of use science in a certain way to justify certain things. The fundamental root problem is a breakdown in our relationship with water, and that water is at the essence of it the source of life. And without an understanding of that, there is no other way that we cannot treat it just like a resource to be managed, that it is much beyond that. And who gets to make decisions about water when it holds that sort of really special, like one might say sacred kind of capacity in our lives? And so after that meeting with Hugh, I remember I was thinking, and I was talking with some colleagues of mine, and I said, Hugh has spent his life in honor of these groundwaters, and that really deserves like some really big recognition. And we decided right there on the spot that we were going to create this award, and we've named it the Dr. Hugh Whitley Lifetime Achievement Award, because anyone who's been in Guelph for any length of time knows how regular a face and a presence Hugh is at all sorts of local council meetings, or GRCA decision-making meetings, or that's the Grand River Conservation Authority, just an active voice always on behalf of like the groundwater, the water, and the valley lands, the river valley lands. And I just think that's a tremendous offering. I'd say most all of that has been as a volunteer on the side, possibly on the side of his desk earlier in his career, and certainly in his retirement, as an offering to this community. And it is it needs recognition. And so we have created this award to recognize and deeply value the lifetime work of Hugh Whitley. And yeah, it sort of chokes me up sometimes when I think about it like that. There's so many of us who've been touched and been in a relationship and in context with Hugh around different issues that have cropped up. And so I would like to take a moment right now, and I know each one of us on this call could probably have a lot to say. And maybe there'll be another time when we can host an event in person where we get to share stories. But right now, I'd like to invite Susan Ratcliffe again back to the camera to just share a little bit of a particular experience she worked with on Hugh, and just to set a context of what it was like and what Hugh's contributions are in this community. So Susan, can I welcome you back for that?
Yes, you can. I listened to an interview with Hugh with Adam Donaldson, as you know, of Guelph Politico, and he called Hugh, he gave him the designation of a GCDE. So that would be a Guelph Council Delegate Emeritus. So he has been to so many council meetings. I thought I'd been to a lot of them, but he's been to a lot of them. And I worked with Hugh particularly on the battle to save the Niska Bridge and the Speed Valley lands from the encroachment of the huge speedway bridge they wanted to put through. And I watched him absolutely destroy the professional consultants who had been hired by the city to justify the road. It was quite amazing. He would just walk up to the microphone with his beautiful, gentle, distinctive voice and that little smile in his voice. And of course, always the perfectly prepared slides. And he would tell them what happened in 1973 and about the river, the Transportation Master Plan and the River Valley Master Plan and the Open Spaces Master Plan, so that those consultants didn't really know what hit them. In his 5 minutes, he could just summarize all of the things that had been promised in the past, because he remembered everything in detail. It was so amazing. And so that's my particular experience with Hugh. And I just appreciated how much he always knew and could remember, and just to see his love of Guelph's rivers. And more recently, I've been seeing that come out in his work with the Protect Our Moraine group in Clare Maltby. So it's the same thing. You can count on him every time to know all of those details and to tell people with a gentle way and a confident way in defense of our precious rivers. So thanks, Arlene, for the chance to tell that story.
Excellent. Thanks, Susan. And like in the ongoing unfolding of this 2Rivers Festival event, I wanted to also just tip my hat to the event that was originally scheduled for this evening. And that event was to be a songwriting competition, songs about our rivers. It was called Tributaries to Our Rivers. And we've had many beautiful submissions, really exquisite submissions. And we are going to reimagine that event to happen another time when we actually can gather in person, or possibly figuring out another way to do it in an online format in case gathering is not a thing we can do for a little while. But as an honorable mention to that event that was scheduled for this evening, because as I mentioned, the event to honor Hugh was to have taken place back in March. It was the first event that we had to cancel during these COVID times. We've reimagined it now, and we actually think that, like, in the long run, this will become an annual event of honoring this award to some subsequent folks who we believe have achieved a lifetime of dedication to our rivers, that if it's a natural fit with our 2Rivers Festival. But the event that was scheduled for this evening was a songwriting competition. And as mentioned, we had beautiful submissions. We're going to show just one of them, and it doesn't mean to play favoritism. It only means that not everybody who submitted a song was also able to submit a video, and this format works well with the video. Not to mention, Shannon Kingsbury is a very dedicated, she's been a very dedicated water watcher for many years and has honored us and graced us with her musical talents at very special events that we as water watchers have held. And she, in conjunction with Nicholas Ruddock, has created this very beautiful song that we are going to share next.
Once I lived by the side of the river Hermosa with my mother and father, and the woods around. We'd swim in the currents and fish in the shallows and watch raccoons hunt the crayfish down. And the moon would rise slowly from the Campbellville Road, and bats would swoop lowly as stars explode. My parents and I, 3 years we would spend. River Hermosa, shimmer and bend. Cool was the water where I learned to swim. Spring by the mill pond, dragonfly skin, red-tailed the hawk, plummeting down, circle of feathers askance on the ground. Thunder and lightning, hail and snow, a calendar turning 10 years ago. A cottage, 3 windows, a candle on a well, stove run on wood, a quarter moon spell. The hair and the waxwing, the paddle, the sigh, mist from the cedars, a kingfisher cry, marigold crocus, sumac blood red, bulrushes, catkins, asleep in our beds. Ice jam, ice cracking, the owl and the mouse, wind in the larches, branch scraping the house, dark eyes at the window pane, river gone wild, sweepers with fingers, awakening child. We moved to the city, to Liverpool Street, and all of a sudden it was people we'd meet, friends in the schoolyard, sidewalk back home, fox and the martin left on their own. And the moon would rise slowly from the Campbellville Road, and bats would swoop lowly as stars explode. My parents and I, 3 years we would spend. River Hermosa, and
Okay, thank you to Shannon and Nicholas for that exquisite composition. And it's funny listening to that. I can tell that took place in Eden Mills. And as I'm perusing the chat messages here too, I am seeing some big shout outs to Hugh for his tremendous amount of work in this little village that I'm graciously lucky to call my home right now too. This stretch of the Aramasa, so dear to so many. And I wanted to remind and invite you that on this evening's escapade here, we're just to like relax and sit back, and this is going to be a bit of a journey as we get to kind of delve into some beautiful visuals and audios along the way. And please feel free to, if you can navigate how to do that, to continue to send your messages to Hugh through the chat option. And you can go into the chat box that's at the bottom of your screen and make sure you click everyone so we can all see it, unless you want to send a specific message to Hugh, and type your congratulations or any note you feel like sharing. So the next part of the evening is something that I feel really excited about sharing. We've been waiting for this moment for a long time, and we've had to wait even longer on account of these COVID restrictions. But some time ago, when it was conceived late in the fall, again, as I had mentioned, after that last meeting that I had, really intentional meeting with you about really understanding what are the most severe impacts to local groundwater, that it really struck me that this is a person who has committed his entire life to the beauty and the value of protecting our water. And in addition to creating this award, we decided very quickly that we wanted to commission a mini film, a mini documentary film to honor Hugh. And within our folds, we have the wonderfully talented Nicholas Lois, a local videographer, media maker, filmmaker, and he jumped all over this opportunity. And thanks to the generous donations of many of you on this call, we were able to commission and produce this very, very beautiful documentary film. So I am really excited to show this right now. This is the first screening ever. And one thing that I wanted to share around is that we've been in conversation with several film festivals, and I believe that this will be the next iteration, the next life of this film, is that it will tour through some film festivals, because it really needs that sort of level of recognition for the lifetime of work. And there are two parts to recognizing the work that Dr. Hugh Whitley has done. One is to really honor the man and honor him for his accomplishments and his achievements, and just his incredible dedication. And the second, which I think he might say is possibly the more important of the two, is to inspire a new generation to step up and into the advocacy of our local waters and our local rivers. And I would love, and I'm very, very proud to share this film right now. So this, I'm just gonna give you a little bit of a heads up. This is a half-an-hour film. Take a moment, relax, get yourselves comfortable. This is gonna be a beautiful and a visual soundscape that you're gonna get to experience now for the next half an hour. And then we'll come back and we'll actually have a moment to present Hugh himself with the award. So if you need a minute, this is a minute to go and go to the bathroom, take a bio break and things like that. And then in probably starting 7:35 on my clock right now, I think 7:38 is when we are going to start this film. And so Megan, I know I'm throwing this on you right now, and I'm going to do a shout out to Megan, who's like our tech support in this moment. I would love it, Megan, if you would be able to scroll down and pop in a video and another song right now before we show the film, in case folks need a bio break. So it could be the Kate Sutherland one or the Doris Fulkin one. Hopefully that works for you. Okay.
Something you may have noticed already is that I like water, and I often sing about the water. So I have another song this week, which is about the river and how it's so cleansing. And that's basically it. And it also evokes a little bit how a river can sing, the song of the water. So it's quite simple, and lovely. And here it goes. I go down to the river. I go down to the river. I go down to the river. Song of water roll over me. I go down to the river. I go down to the river. I go down to the river. Song of water roll over me. I go down to the river. I go down to the river. I go down to the river. Song of water roll over me. Song of water roll over me. Song of water roll over me.
Okay, well, thanks to Kate Sutherland for that very beautiful song that might resonate with so many of us about going down to the river. And I think without further ado, we're going to dive right on in to this film that is for a lovely half an hour. Just relax, stretch out, and enjoy this very beautiful offering from Wellington Water Watchers through the talented hands of Nicholas Lois.
What I most remember about earliest direct contacts with water is racing matchsticks in spring runoff in the ditch just outside of my house when I was in early primary school. The activity coincided with the end of winter. Things were changing, entering into the very enjoyable summer season. And a mark of that was there were these streams of water that you could control with snow dams and then release a flood and have competition in matchstick racing and the resulting floods. So that's the earliest. And I was remembering today that while it wasn't a direction that my parents gave me, when they first married in Ottawa and in the 3 years until I was born, the one activity that I know was a sort of central release for them was that they did canoeing trips. And that continued. I was in a canoe earliest probably at age 3 or so, sticking in the very bow of the family canoe on trips. And so the nurturing involved water in a number of ways. And it's not very surprising that in my undergraduate engineering education, I ended up with the need to do a thesis in the 4th year. And that undergraduate thesis was about flood predictions. I didn't, at the time, recognize this was a natural consequence of earlier upbringing, but reflecting back, can see that there was a strong influence throughout my growing up years to be interested in water.
The organization Wellington Water Watchers was founded in 2007, and almost immediately, right from the get-go, Hugh was a vital resource to us as the local hydrogeologist. So he has a wealth of knowledge and experience of hydrology in general, but particularly these river valley lands here. And Hugh was our go-to person all throughout these last 12 years.
The Wellington Water Watchers in the very early days opposed Nestle's permit to take water. And initially we just had a huge campaign, and we had many people, thousands of people writing in saying they're opposed to it. The Ministry of the Environment responded by saying, well, it doesn't really matter how many people are opposed to it. You know, we make our decisions based on scientific facts and figures. So the next time we opposed Nestle's permit to take water, we focused on the technical side. And that's where Hugh played a huge role. He and a fellow named Stan Denhood looked at the reports that were produced by Nestle's hydrogeological consultant and discovered that Mill Creek, which is the creek that runs by their plant and where their water taking takes place, Mill Creek is actually a spring. And fish breed there because water is welling up from the groundwater. Very cold water and very clean water is welling up from the bottom of the stream. But they discovered that by Nestle's pumping activities, the water was actually reversing, and the stream water was flowing into the ground instead of the groundwater flowing up into the stream. So that was a major discovery, and it really helped make our case.
I think it was when we were coming out of the Ministry of Environment's, or a ministry office in Guelph, and we just had a meeting with all the technical stakeholders in the province. And Hugh had said something to them, and you could just see their faces go, oh, he noticed that. And for me, from my point of view, it was, you know, I didn't really understand the significance of what he kind of had outed, but just by the faces on them and how everything kind of turned in the conversation, I realized they went, well, I don't think we're going to be able to push anything over on him or the Wellington Water Watchers for a while, because I think they just thought they could just keep pushing more data at us and it would just scare us away. So that particular day, the elevator closed, and I looked at him and I said, Hugh, wow, that was really impactful. Like, you made a big impression this day. And that was, I think, 2010. And things started to really change then.
One of the things that I have appreciated very much about Hugh is he does it because it's just a love of his and a passion of his. And having a chance to get together with Hugh is always something that I've especially coveted. So if you chat with Hugh, he's got incredible recall and a lot of stories. And so it's never ever just a quick visit with Hugh, which I love because he's a storyteller as well. And I know the last time, and I think that the last time I was speaking with him really was the inspiration for me wanting to make this film about him, because when I asked him, or the purpose of our meeting, the reason why I asked if we could meet was to help me assess, and for the organization of Wellington Water Watchers, we're trying to assess what are the largest risks to our groundwater right now. And I had a few ideas, and he conferred with those ideas, and we agreed in the same sense about what the most major threats are. But fundamentally, what I think Hugh has an understanding of, which is outside of the scope of his science and technical background, Hugh has an understanding of a broken relationship that exists between like modern human and the natural world. And when he was referencing what the real significant threats are, he said he had to lay the foundation first of what he believes is the endemic threat that exists deeply within the modern culture. And he referenced the fact that it is, our relationship with water that has, and with our rivers and with the natural world in general, that has been lost, or it's not as full as it can be, and that allows us to treat our rivers, our natural spaces, or groundwater without much respect and care.
Always a twinkle in his eye. I mean, that was just always there. And that's right, often in discussion, there'd be a chuckle at the ends of sentences and whatnot. So there was, even though we might be talking about, even some rather serious matters and whatnot, Hugh could find a way of chuckling about them too, and kind of lighten them, which was a lot of fun.
I don't know if you saw it too. There's this lovely little twinkle in his eye, and he's often got a chuckle in as he's telling stories, and he's just a lovely person. As I mentioned, I really enjoy hearing his stories, and I will park myself with a cup of tea and sit and listen to his answers to my questions for countless hours if I would be so lucky.
In our third year class, we had an assignment. And my study partner, his assignment got unfortunately lost by Hugh. And so Hugh gave him 100%. A year later, we were in the student lounge and we were studying away, and Hugh came up to my study partner and said, "You're lucky I lost your paper," because he had found it a year later with a footprint on top of it. And my friend had only gotten 70%, so he was very lucky. But I think you're right. I think Hugh had a way of laughing at himself, but also, making fun of situations and light of situations, which I think is a real gift.
Sometimes when you need him to be serious, Hugh will come out with something funny. You go, "Oh, that was," and you go, "Where did that come from?" It's pretty hilarious. He's always got a bit of humor, and I think he's got irony. He has a sense of irony that comes out in his conversations, and he's a very funny guy. But he also takes what he does very seriously. So yeah, he's so approachable. That's the whole thing. Like, he'll talk to anyone, and he'll volunteer as much as possible for whatever time he might have, if he thinks the cause is worthwhile. So yeah, he's got that playful sort, and that kind of makes him just fun to be around.
It's a property that others have noted about my forms of presentation, particularly in tribunals or court settings. And I think it's a derivation of having lived a life that centered on things that I was really interested in and found enjoyment in finding out about and promoting beneficial use of. And so I don't regard presentations as a confrontation or an argumentative forum as much as an opportunity to try to bring people into this understanding of what a wonderful world we live in and how good the opportunities are for us to make good advantage of it. And that's a very light kind of attitude to bring to the presentation.
I think Hugh is, his approach to science, his lightheartedness in going at that approach, but his commitment along with that to just keep working with council to help people try to see what he sees. I think it's quite unusual.
He's fierce. Like, he will stand for what he believes in, and he will, even if he knows he's going to lose the challenge, he will still make sure that he's there speaking about the truths that he knows about. And everything from, I know in the way back in the earlier days, I think he was actively involved in campaigns that were opposing nuclear energy that were beyond the scope of the rivers here. But there's just been countless activism-related pieces that he's been involved in where he can bring the science and the relationship piece together, which is a really unique subset in the world of water advocacy, because either we're advocates and don't really have the background, or we are scientists and miss the relationship part, and to have it pieced together in one human who's got an ability to chuckle and chat and not really worry too much if he knows it's not going to win. He's still gonna make a stand, and he's still going to say what needs to be said and heard.
I first became aware of Hugh in his role as an activist. He would go to city council and he would advocate on a whole bunch of things. Often they had nothing to do with hydrogeology, but they were always in the public interest. And you know, in my career as a toxicologist, I would write reports and they would have facts and figures, and I thought my role was to present the report and let decision makers make the decision. It wasn't my role to urge them to take a certain course or not. But by watching how Hugh navigated these waters, if you don't mind the pun, he was very good at playing that interface role between being a scientist and being an activist. And I began to realize that that is really a duty of scientists. If you see something that is not in the public interest, it's really a duty that you must do something about it. And he was very good at that, and for that reason he's kind of a mentor of mine. He showed me that you can be a scientist and an activist.
When I was in grade 7, there was an extension to the public school that I was attending that included a gym, which hadn't been available to students up till the time of the new expansion. And for some reason, although it was nearly finished, it wasn't going to be open during my grade 8 period. And to indicate the dissatisfaction of the students who would be graduating without getting the opportunity to use it, I organized a petition to the school board as a grade 7 student, and a small protest outside the school when the Premier of the province, George Drew, came to visit. So from grade 7 on, I've been organizing various things to reflect on social disadvantaged circumstances. without sort of intentionally doing it, I think I have always had an understanding that the most I could reasonably expect was to have made the case.
Both Hugh and I sat on a panel recently that was, the event was called Fail Night, and it had a focus particularly on people doing work in the environmental sector. And the question was pretty much that: how do we as people doing the work keep going when often it feels like all odds are against us?
I've not been faced with situations where the not making the case presented me with the feeling of complete failure.
You know, it was a bit about, you take the wins where you get them, and you really celebrate those wins when you get them. And you learn from the quote-unquote fails along the way, and you learn how to try to reframe it or speak it differently, or the bits that might have been missed. But often it's not that. Often it's just this trudging on, this relentless trudging on of modernity.
I'd acknowledge that my life has been very free of sort of tragic consequences or difficulties. And I'm remembering, for example, a very different circumstance. There was a young Canadian volunteer in Central America, a woman, who was working with indigenous groups that were being directly slaughtered by military people as part of internal disputes in Central America. And she was eventually arrested and put in a women's prison along with a local activist. And because she had a large following in Canada, she was eventually released. And as she left the prison, she recognized that her release was not going to produce the release of the person she'd been arrested with. And instead of continuing on and making public representations to have that occur, she went back to prison. And that kind of, I've never had to make that kind of decision about risking really everything in order to make a consistent advocacy. So I'm the wrong person to ask in terms of how to handle really difficult, tense situations.
As academic counselor for the School of Engineering, I attended many meetings, staff meetings as well as general school meetings. And oftentimes when things were discussed, things got heated, people got emotional, and you'd have two different opposing views. And one of the things I think inspired me most about Hugh was Hugh's ability to listen to both sides, and unemotionally at the end, after everybody had had their opportunity to speak, he would then collect and summarize from each person and build consensus.
He was a professor, and he could have stuck to being a professor and not gone that extra mile, if you want to characterize it that way. But he's demonstrated through his career and in his retirement that he was invested in water. He wanted to see good things for the watershed. He understands the complexity of it. He understands the value of managing it. And he was true to his nature. So, that's maybe another example Hugh shows to younger people, is be true to your nature, and Hugh truly valued water. And that's the example that I think he leads for us.
Well, integrity is a good word to use with Hugh, and I use the word authentic, if you like, too, is just incredibly authentic and grounded just around moral values, but all manner of things. He was just incredibly grounded and just operated out of that base. And again was had the courage to share that at moments in meetings and things where it wasn't necessarily easy to do, but he'd find a way of doing it and moving forward. Yeah.
I want to talk from a Wellington Water Watchers point of view. We wouldn't be where we are today without him. It's as simple as that. He allowed us to get, we had to do our activist channel, we had to do certain channels, but we also had to have credibility in a technical channel. And we would not have got where we did today without Hugh Whitley's involvement. Simple as that. It would have been a different organization without this whole other level of credibility behind it. And to me, that is why I'm so eternally thankful for what he's done, because I was there with him seeing what was going on. I saw the hours of work that he put in, not hours, years of work he put into it. And so to me, that's really what stands out, that legacy. He helped put us on the map.
I have this vision one day of there being everyone along our river corridors, standing along the rivers, like standing there in support of life. And it's only going to happen one by one by one. And I can only imagine the number of people that Hugh has influenced in that way over his life and over the many, many, many campaigns that he has worked on. So even if they haven't in and of themselves been successful, I bet you there are countless number of people that he has turned on and awoken to stand in protection of these things that serve life.
There's a widespread feeling that somehow people are connected to the continuation that water represents. The fact that it's flowing and that it has, for human experience, always flowed, and in the language of treaties, will continue to flow as a mark of sort of continuity of the contact between people and the environment that we live within. Continuation of full protection of natural areas, it has to be embedded in the community ethos. And that doesn't happen because a few people say that they think that's a great idea. It's because people grow into an understanding of the importance of every person feeling some responsibility for the community in which they're living, and then working out what that responsibility means in terms of a vision for long-term sustainable preservation of all of the beneficial features of that community. So what water has taught me is that you have to first find out all of the interactions involved with a variety of options in front of you, and then choose one that doesn't depend on exploitation, but depends on integration.
So I hope you all have enjoyed that, even with our interruptions. It's the way of the current reality and the current future, as we all are humans navigating this really bizarre world we find ourselves in. But to not break the moment and to stay in the preciousness of like all of that we just honored in Hugh. I had mentioned it earlier, and I do hope that each of you can join me right now in whatever you have in front of you, whatever it is. Mine happens to be a little bit of Gewürz, local Gewürztraminer. And if you can join me for a moment to a toast to Dr. Hugh Whitley and his incredible work and advocacy for our local rivers. Cheers. Okay, and thanks. So, I mean, we have, like, in the real life version of the way this event would have gone, I'm going to show you. This is an award. You can't see it. The glare is going to be on it. But this is an award that we were going to give to Hugh. And I'm going to ask Megan in this moment to just pop the image of what the award shows so that you can actually see it on the screen. So I just want to say that this is an award. The framed version is going to go to Hugh. And in our Water Watchers office, which who knows what that's going to look like now going forward, but we are going to keep a running tally, and you can see that in addition to honoring Hugh, this is intended to be a legacy piece that starts to honor individuals in each subsequent year, and we're going to continue to add to those years and to the names of folks who are, and there's so many in our community who are worthy of this award, but it is really tremendous to be able to offer this award to Hugh. And Hugh, I'm gonna, thanks Megan, we can pause that off, and I'm gonna take a moment right now to put Hugh himself on the spot. And Hugh, if you wouldn't mind, you can unmute yourself and turn your video on. And we would love to just hear from you for a little bit. And I hope this has all felt really good for you, and would love to hear from you.
Okay. First of all, I have to recognize that the image that's projected is that I live all by myself and haven't any support. And so I want to start out by acknowledging that my loving and adoring wife has been the reason for my continued ability to perform for now approaching 55 years. And I have two very independent and self-reliant sons. And it's with that loving family background that I'm able to make whatever contribution I can. And I'm going to be reading because I wanted to make sure that I got at least some cogent thoughts in. I'm deeply touched and grateful to be selected as the first recipient of the Wellington Water Watchers Lifetime Achievement Award. I noticed that the Wikipedia entry for introverts notes that we tend to be quiet and subdued. We dislike being the center of attention, even if attention is positive. And it's not surprising then that introverts don't brag about their achievements or knowledge and don't look forward to recognition events. But I've learned over my long lifetime that this natural tendency to be dismissive of recognition is both selfish and inappropriate, because the real significance of a recognition event is not in honoring the recipient, but in the love and respect for the human community that's shown by the individuals and groups that organize and maintain the activity of award giving. And so you are really the center of the event. The individuals and groups that organize the 2Rivers Festival in Guelph, especially Wellington Water Watchers, are the proper recipients of gratitude for
your engagement with Guelph's proper role as a river-focused community. I accept the award on behalf of you and the wide company of people that have worked over centuries to preserve the gifts of beauty and tranquility that Guelph's river corridors bestow on all who live here and who visit. During my 54 years in Guelph, I have been mentored and inspired by many people, but I've only recently recognized that a non-recognized mentor should have been the First Nations fisher whose shelter on the banks of the Speed River John Galt used as the focus point for the founding of Guelph. Canada and Guelph must give effective redress for the injustices resulting from the doctrine of discovery. We must recognize First Nations people as the original inhabitants of Canada who have as a right responsibilities and environmental ethics that can't be ignored. I've only gradually recognized, really in the past year, how strong and continuing is the influence of river corridors in land use planning in Guelph. During the 19th century, the Aramosa River and stretches of the Speed were held out to newcomers as being the important reason for coming to Guelph because of their quiet pastoral beauty. By 1900, there were already the beginnings of riverside parkland being set aside. And by 1970, river corridors had been established as the framework for green space in the city, with plans for 3 river-based conservation areas at Guelph Lake and Arkell as the upstream anchors, and as has been brought out earlier in the evening, the Hanlon Creek Conservation Area as the downstream anchor. While this continuity of planning can be traced in the historic record, it is not clearly maintained as City Council and staff change over time. Consequently, the many groups who work to maintain this emphasis often are not aware of the continuity of their efforts. I was first interested in Guelph's rivers by the intervention of a watchdog group when the city planned to do a renewal of the aqueduct from Arkell. This group had to sort of, from first principles, indicate that river corridors were important. The result was the first class environmental assessment of a water supply system in Ontario, and an important outcome is the public access trail along the Aramosa from Victoria to Stone Road, which was a continuation of city planning, but had to be started fresh as a new activity. Another action group that I've been alerted me to river issues was the Clean Water Coalition, a very active group during the 1980s. And they have a monument, the water quality measurement station that you will observe on the south bank of the Speed at Edinburgh Road is there because Clean Water Coalition insisted on water quality measurements. I'm embarrassed to say that the River Systems Management Plan that I worked on extensively and was adopted in 1993 was in many ways a rediscovery of the importance of river as a planning element in Guelph, rather than a reaffirmation of past planning. The River Systems Advisory Committee, once it was established, has been really successful in making some important contributions. I single out the beautiful bridge over the Speed River on Gordon Street, which replaces a starkly functional original bridge suggestion. And that was the result of the River Systems Advisory Committee working closely with Heritage Guelph. Similar coalition preserved the concrete bowstring arch bridge over the Aramosa at Stone. I was therefore disappointed that City Council has currently lost that thread and disbanded the River Systems Advisory Committee at the end of last year. So I'll end by saying if river supporters want a specific campaign goal to be their activity package for the post-COVID reestablishment period, I would strongly recommend advocacy of restoring an equivalent to the River Systems Advisory Committee, perhaps the River Corridors and Greenways Committee, that could act as a community oversight to preserve Guelph's position as Ontario's premier river-focused city. So I've taken advantage of the opportunity to implant an idea and end by, again, thank you so much for organizing this activity. And one of the real pleasures has been observing the people who've signed on and reliving some of the experiences that I've shared with them. So thank you ever so much.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you, Hugh. And I know too that when we first started talking about this, the only way that I recall when I first introduced the idea was that you would take it on if it meant that it would be about leading to future advocacy for our rivers. And it doesn't surprise me that that's part of your conditions on accepting this. And may this be an inspiration to all in our community to heed your words, heed those calls that you just made about the River Advisory Committee, and to take very seriously to heart about our role here in our advocacy. So yeah, thanks you for your wonderful words. And I know I'm going to pass it over to Susan right now because she has a special guest that would like to say a few things to you.
Well, we've been talking about the premier advocate for the rivers. So we have a special guest, MPP Mike Schreiner, who is our advocate for just about everything that's good. I don't really need to introduce him to Guelph people, but I just want to mention his advocacy for the Paris-Galt Marine Act to protect our groundwater sources and our beautiful hummocky topography. I had to get that phrase in. I know Mike because I also worked with him on the Niska Bridge and know that he is a strong advocate for water and for our environment. And in his position in the Ontario Parliament, he speaks for our water, I think, and for all environmental issues. So Mike, we welcome you to say a few words.
Thank you, Susan, and thank you, Hugh, for always providing us with your wise words and but also your challenge for us to continue to work hard to protect these rivers and to ensure that we have the right policies in place to protect them, and that we as a community remain vigilant in protecting them. And I can say that over the years, you've been a huge mentor to me. I can't tell you how many little arcane phrases in the provincial policy statement or in some sort of city water plan, or we were trying to strategize this or that or whatever. And Hugh always had an angle, an insight, some obscure policy point and some document to bring to my attention to just be a better advocate and a better protector of our waters. And so, so thank you for that. And what a well-deserved honor. And Hugh never let us stop learning from you and working with the wisdom that you provide so that we all collectively as a community can maintain our leadership in protecting these waters where the Aramosa and the Speed River meet and all the waterlands throughout this watershed. So thank you so much for what you've done for our community and how you've helped me. And I'm sure you will allow me to continue to always seek your wise advice and insights whenever I need to. And I know whenever anybody in our community needs your wisdom and knowledge. So thank you for all you've done. And thank you for your wise words again this evening.
Okay, awesome. Thanks, Mike. Nice to see you in your busy schedule. Thanks for joining us here. I want to say, in addition, as you can well imagine, probably as I started to share out about this event and about this award, I started to hear from countless people who've been influenced by Hugh over the years. And one really interesting one caught my eye just a couple of days ago, and it's from a new friend, and who's on this call right now, or on this video right now, called named Barry Randall. And Barry let me know about a song that he together wrote with Hugh. Possibly there's a bigger story, and I'm going to invite you to share that right now, Barry. So if you're able to join us right now, you can pop your video up and you can unmute yourself. And I'm going to ask Megan when the time is right to screen share the song that I believe was co-written. But first we'll hear. Yeah. Over to you, Barry.
Well, thanks, Arlene. My family lived in Guelph for a dozen years or so back in the 80s, and we were involved. I worked with OPIRG and a number of different groups in town, and water was certainly a big issue that we dealt with, but also nuclear weapons was a big topic back in the day. And when I got the invite, the email invite to this event this weekend, it reminded me of a song that I had just seen a few days ago because I was organizing my songs, and published in something called Singing for Our Lives, verse or something there. And it's called Disarmament, the Way for Life. And I believe not only did Hugh and I write that song together, I think he probably wrote most of the words, and I helped with the music, but we spent time together. I think the group was called Guelph Action for Peace, and we spent a lot of time on the streets. We spent a lot of time advocating for the abolishment of nuclear weapons, and this song pretty much says it all. And I don't know how the audio is going to be. Can't really see my guitar, but I do have a guitar. And my wife Deb's going to join on the chorus here. I don't know if you'll be able to share the screen. Oh, look at that. Here we go. Yeah. Oh, a little bigger. Okay, well, it says copyright the Guelph Disarmament Committee. There we go. Oh, that's perfect. I can just look right at the screen. Okay, here we go. Slide in. There you go. Okay. There's a people's coalition growing right around the world. In many tongues and many lands, the call for peace is heard. The call for strength to put an end to all the missiles and the bombs, to turn 50,000 warheads into vouchers for their farms. Disarmament, speak out today and work until peace. Disarmament, the way of life shall be. There's strength, love for others, and can break the chain of war. Bring the justice without violence that this world is yearning for. If you love this fragile planet, work to set it free from the hatred that destroys it in the missile's tyranny. Disarmament, speak out today and work until we see the way of life shall be. Those who trust in mighty weapons are the blind and insecure. Caring for and killing that builds peace and bring respect to every person. Guard their freedom, stand with me, step by step journey, and at last we all shall see. Armament, speak out and work. Armament, the way of life. Tomorrow it shall be. Take it around again. Disarmament, out and work on. Disarmament, the way of life. Tomorrow it shall be. Thanks, Hugh, for all the work you do.
Well,
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, Barry and your wife. I didn't catch your wife's name. What was your wife's name?
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us. That was so lovely. And I'm sure it'll touch some heartstrings for Hugh too afterwards. So I think in a response from Hugh, I ended up hearing that there probably have been over his lifetime probably several songs he's been part of creating, and maybe that'll be another project that happens one day, which is just about like compiling the songs that Hugh was involved with. And I know that this has been a really long event, and I appreciate all of you sticking with us through these like online times. And in a quick moment, I'm going to send a few gratitudes out and shout outs. I want to thank Susan Ratcliffe, who had joined me as a co-host this evening. And I want to send huge, huge props to Megan, who's been our facilitator of the entire 2Rivers Festival, like technical parts. And we're just going to give a big shout out to Megan because she's just done an incredible job. And those are like the technical parts internally. This event is to honor a man we can consider really lucky to have in our community. Shall every community be blessed to have someone like him? There'd be like a deep central grounding point and pulling together of future advocates. And as I mentioned earlier, I believe that the inspiration of this award to Hugh is absolutely to acknowledge and honor Hugh for his incredible work, but more than anything, it's to inspire others and possibly young generations of folks coming up to step into these beautiful shoes that have been, you know, filled out around us, laid before us, to stand as a voice for some of those pieces that don't always have a voice, say for example in bureaucratic chambers. So I'm gonna wrap it up right now, and unless I think we wanted to leave a few moments here, if you're feeling like you're absolutely compelled that you need to say something and Hugh needs to hear it right now, there are several ways that you could do it, and we are going to wrap this up. It's 8:49. We're going to wrap it up at 9. If there's something that you really want to say, you can certainly let us know. Pop in the chat box, and I'm going to be watching for you. And the other thing that I have said in the chat box right now is I've put my email there. If there are future comments you want me to share with you, please put it there. We're saving them all. We'll send them all to him. If there's something you wish to speak right now, and if not, we're gonna leave you with another song for this evening, and we're gonna just hold this beautiful experience that we've had this evening in this very weird, bizarre online format of coming together as a community around the protection of our water. I'm getting a few thanks in the chats. So Megan, I'm wondering if you might be able to tee up this is another song that had come as part of our submissions to our songwriting competition from 2 local folks called Doris Volkin and Graham Lindsay. And if it's possible, Megan, you can confirm whether that's there. And we're going to lead you out with this one. Oh, okay. Hugh has sent me a note saying it would be, yeah, and this is a good thing. I'm going to invite you all right now to take a moment. Maybe everyone can go up into that little icon on the top right of their screen that says Gallery View. Click on it. And everybody unclick their video where possible. I know some are joining. And let's just see all your faces. Let's just see you all there. Oh, that was a wonderful suggestion. Oh, hello, all these friends. So many I know, some I don't know, but it's lovely to see you. And yeah, so nice. I can see you, so many. We have a big crew of folks on here. Nice to see everybody. Oh, toasts. Anyone who has one left, we can have another toast. It's lovely to see you all. Thanks for that suggestion.
Great job.
There's a lot of folks on here. You see, Hugh, how many people are even just like in this moment being able to honor you. To you, Hugh. Let's all do a toast. Anyone who has a glass in front of them, let's just do a toast right now. Of any sort, whatever. This is toast. Yeah.
Congratulations, Dr. Whiteley.
Congratulations, Dr. Whiteley.
You're here. You. Here's you, Hugh.
Fun.
Okay. And in response, let's everybody give a wave of hands to Arlene for bearing all of the burden of getting this together. Yay!
Great job, Arlene.
Okay, well, what I can say is that we've got this beautiful framed image that is up here, and it's going to arrive to you. I know where you live now, Hugh, because I was able to support you one time during this COVID experience, and I will bring you that, and I will bring you a card with all of the folks and the notes and everything that we collect. So I'll get in touch with
picture.
That. And to all of you, because you're part of this, I know it means that you care a lot about this place and these rivers. And I send my gratitude to you for joining us on this beautiful Saturday summer evening. And I wish you all like a lovely, lovely rest of your evening and into this gorgeous summer. So blessings.
Day.
Thank you, Arlene.
Have a good night. Yeah. Okay. Good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone.
There's a song.
Good night.
Well done. Congratulations, Hugh.
Thank you.
Oh, maybe, Megan, maybe you could play that song. I don't know if you're able to do that, just to let people out. Oh, she's texting. Yes. Yes, Megan, you should play the song.
Rises from rivers deep as light is dawning, where the Aramosa and the Sneed join across the waters, through wetlands and county fields. Waters feed our gardens, feeding all who live round here near these crossflow waters. Strength is in our river.
I've got a little story that like Hugh to hear.
Sure, go for it. Yeah.
When I was working on my PhD degree with Hugh as my supervisor, every time I'm amazed that he went out in the field with me. I didn't think profs did that, so that's one up for you, Dr. Whiteley. Anyways, I always refer to Hugh as Dr. Whiteley, and that's because whenever I was tell my wife that we were maybe going on a field trip or something, I'd say, tomorrow I'm going out with Hugh. And Kim listened to that, and unfortunately, because of the way we're pronouncing it, the Hugh sounds like you. And so when I said, you know, Hugh and I are going out on the field trip, my wife would get all excited because she thinks I'm taking her out. So to get around that, I just decided to start referring to you as Dr. Whiteley. So it's mostly for clarifying who I'm talking about. And then the other thing I still remember is when we are doing all that field work, whenever we come to an intersection, Dr. Whiteley would always say, you don't know you're on a King's Highway until you're on it. Just two little remembrances.
Good to see you, Harold.
Yeah. Oh, one other thing I got to say, I've often said in talking to other people that I was blessed over my whole life so far with the instructors I've had. And I think I've had over 40 different instructors if you go back to kindergarten. And Dr. Whiteley, Hugh, you're one of the top three, probably number one. There's only a few people I can say that who can almost teach me anything.
That's lovely. Oh, you're muted, Dwight. Just try one more time. Unmute yourself.
The Bobby Orr of water.
Unfortunately, your career is longer.
Better go off on that note, Arlene.
Okay. Good night, everyone. Blessings. Thanks for joining us, and sleep well and eat well, Hugh.
Bye-bye.
Bye.